Deep within the twisted, ancient halls of the Dragon Temple, a figure stood shrouded in darkness, his form almost blending into the shadows that pooled around him. The Obsidian Wraith, once a mage of unparalleled power and ambition, was a being transformed, corrupted by the dark magic that coursed through his veins. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light as he surveyed the forest through the vision of his Spectral Guardian, reliving the battle that had just taken place. The sight of Kaelen had been promising. The boy possessed power, raw, untrained, yet formidable. But it was the presence of the dragon spirit Astra that stirred something deeper, an emotion the Wraith had thought long buried. The radiant dragon spirit, bound to Kaelen's soul, glowed with a light so pure it made the Wraith's skin crawl. Within him, a dark voice hissed, laced with bitterness and recognition. Astra! The name was filled with contempt, reverberating from within the dark dragon spirit that shared the Wraith's essence. Nyrax, as he was called, a creature of shadows and ancient malice, seethed at the sight of his twin sister, his fury rising like smoke. Though he wielded immense power, Nyrax knew that Astra's light had always eclipsed his own. Even now, it gnawed at him that her strength, pure and uncorrupted, was beyond his reach, beyond his darkness. The Wraith could feel Nyrax's anger simmering, almost pulsing through his veins, strengthening the hatred that burned toward Kaelen and Astra alike. Kaelen's potential intrigued him, but it was Astra's enduring power that stoked his deepest rage. But then Lyria had intervened, bringing their attention back to the battle at hand, her attacks weakening the Spectral Guardian just enough to allow the boy to escape. The Wraith clenched his hands, frustration seething within him. Lyria. She had been one of his finest disciples, a warrior who embraced his teachings, wielding the dark magic with grace and precision. It was she who had stolen the shard, delivering it into his hands and sealing her place as his trusted agent. And now she was helping Kaelen, fighting against him. The Wraith's mind twisted in bitter resentment. He had sensed the shift in her, subtle yet unmistakable. Lyria still wielded the dark magic, but no longer with the blind loyalty that had bound her to him. She had grown cautious, hesitant. The darkness no longer claimed her heart entirely. She had begun to resist, breaking the hold that once made her his. But Kaelen posed the greater threat. Through his Spectral Guardian's eyes, he watched as Kaelen, Astra, and Lyria made their way toward the ruins, and a chill ran through what remained of the Wraith's soul. The ancient ruins, a forgotten place of sanctuary and power. Generations of Emberfall's mages had all but forgotten the existence of this hidden site, a sanctuary built by the ancient dragon spirits themselves to unlock and amplify a mage's abilities. The Wraith knew its power well, for he had once gone there himself in his youth, seeking knowledge and strength. It was within those ruins that he had unlocked his own potential, bending time to his will and delving into magics that Emberfall's council had long abandoned. That was before he had turned to darker paths, seduced by the promise of the Shadow Cabal and the dark shard that now bound his power. And he knew that within those ruins, Kaelen could do the same. Time within the ancient sanctuary did not flow as it did in the outside world. Hours would stretch into days, days into years, offering limitless potential for one willing to endure its trials. If the ancient spirits chose to mentor Kaelen, the boy could emerge with powers to rival his own. The Wraith seethed, knowing what this meant. Kaelen was untested, untrained, but his connection to Astra granted him potential beyond any mage the Council had seen in generations. With proper guidance, he could gain the strength to shatter the hold of the shard, to undo the very corruption that the Wraith had spent years cultivating. A twisted smile crept onto his lips as he reminded himself that he, too, had mastered time. Within the Dragon Temple, he had created his own pocket of frozen time, though far weaker than the true sanctuary Kaelen was heading toward. It had allowed him to train his dark disciples, those who would serve his cause in exchange for power. Lyria herself had once trained within those halls, honing her abilities in a fraction of the time it would have taken in the outside world. But Lyria's betrayal stung. Her loyalty had wavered, her resolve weakened. She had tasted too much of the light, glimpsing the world beyond the shadows. She was still powerful, yes, but she no longer belonged to him. The Wraith clenched his fists, his dark magic pulsing through him. If Kaelen reached the ruins and unlocked his potential, he would be nearly unstoppable, a force capable of tearing down the Wraith's empire, reversing the darkness that had consumed Emberfall. But Emberfall would not wait. The Wraith would strike at the heart of the city before Kaelen could emerge from the sanctuary. His eyes turned toward the vision of Emberfall's gates, the grand city that had once been his home. His gaze hardened, and a dark energy crackled through the temple, echoing off the ancient stones. He reached out through his dark magic, summoning the spectral forces that lay in wait, gathering his hordes. They responded eagerly, creatures born of shadows and malice, waiting only for his command to unleash their fury. A swarm of beasts, twisted and foul, emerged from the shadows, amassing into an army that would blot out the light itself. The Wraith allowed himself a moment of satisfaction, feeling the tremor of power ripple through his domain. Kaelen and his allies might find refuge in the ruins for now, but Emberfall would fall before he could return. And as the Wraith's creatures surged toward the city gates, he whispered a promise into the darkness. "Let the light come. I will consume it all." With a flick of his hand, he sent his hordes toward the city, knowing that this attack would push the Order of the Flame to its breaking point. Emberfall's defenses would crumble, and by the time Kaelen emerged, he would have nothing left to save.